mixtapes. So I think like Dedication Part 6 is probably his best mixtape. Obviously the Carter 1 is a classic. Carter 2 is pretty good. Carter 5 I think goes hard. I also really love The Drought. I forget which one. Whichever one had the Bobby Shmurda, the Hot Boys, where he just like got on that track. Whichever Drought that was. But it's just like every song he puts out is just phenomenal. Are there new uniques coming specifically for Bone Spear? No. There is Locrins. Checking pit at the moment. In high density, I do peak 50 million surges. Usually 20 to 30 properly set up on average. Is that with Locrins as well? You're not using Locrins? How? This has got to be best in slot. It's got to like come not even close, right? I don't believe you. I think I don't believe you. I think if you properly set this up, this is best in slot. Like it gives you 100% uptime of crit. That's really hard to argue with. Outside of the builds, does the game feel same? They didn't change anything fundamentally about the game. Not really. I dislike the change to the heart drop rate, and the new content needs to be like severely buffed. Why that other ring purple? This is a mythic unique. Remember Ubers? Now they're purple. Aka got a weird case. Why is he around? Let's go ahead and put Heart and Bones here. And then let's just try to proactively farm Hell Tides. Get the spread. We covered already, but did the devs say whether Locrins is bugged or working as intended? They haven't put out any statements on basically anything for the PTR yet. Did they fix the drop rate of what thing, Razino? It's not that the endgame content is boring necessarily. I think that the endgame content is fairly fun. It's that it's just really not worth your time, which fundamentally leads to like a less than valuable outcome. Oh, I need my cat. God damn it. I do not have a grandfather. Shielding Storm working? It is not. Yes, they fixed Compass. And see what I wear open profile. Alright, I'll have to take a look. It gives 50% crit chance at max roll. Yes, and a crit damage multiplier, even though it says plus. Is it not insane? Yep. Grasping Veins is just... I think it will be very hard for you to not use this amulet on your build. Unique items are going to be updated. Supposedly. That's what they said. Season 5 is not until August. How are people able to play it? This is a PTR, public test realm. How often would you say that you're overpowering per rotation? How are you overpowering that many times? You have slow attack speed? Are you not doing Wrathmas to fit more multis? Are you going Great Feast? Here, I'll look at your profile. Grandfather? This can't be right. Looking to switch my Necro build, what's the easiest way to get the attributes for a new build? Doing Helltides? Helltides, by far. Oh, did y'all see this nonsense? Oh, did it get fixed? Oh, maybe I actually have to spam it even faster than that. Huh. Very weird. Oh. Why didn't a man come out of there? Hello? Hello? I need light weapon caches. Movement aspects were awesome. Now remove them and put them on the skill tree, please. We do not have enough room. Well, we have a mobility aspect room. The major issue is that the Necro is weak enough where... Oh, you can't see cold. You can't see like frozen status on your character? I keep getting CC'd and not knowing how. Light weaponry. Give me that mortar crux. What's up, Grim? See Corpse Explosion do good soon? Yeah, it would need to be buffed for that to happen. Because they took it and they took away all of its damage. And they said, now use it. It's a very interesting thing where, like, Corpse Explosion was only good because the game wasn't hard. Like, killing monsters wasn't difficult to do. Which is a very interesting, like, realization. Are there no Helltide events over here? The focus really better compared to Lidless Wall? Significantly so. A shield reduces your damage by 20%. Whereas a focus gives you 100% of its damage bonus. Sorry, by 10%. So a shield makes you do 1.8 damage, a focus makes you do 2x damage. Paolo, thank you very much for the follow. Buddy, thank you for the follow as well. Very specifically, Bone Mages casting Bone Spirit, or Bone Spear and Bone Shards, which is actually just your Necromancer casting it, can proc Lucky Hit chance, because it's actually just you casting Bone Spear. Like mechanically, it is actually just you casting Bone Spear. Right now, the Shadow Damage aura is currently proccing on gear Lucky Hit effects. 100% coefficient, and that is a bug which will not make it to live. All Helltide events are cross-zone. Oh, right. And they basically just want you to get a full Helltide done in like, or like a full Whisper done in like 15 minutes is what they said, right? Bone Storm fixed. Shielding Storm has not been changed. Do new items drop at tormented bosses? Some of them do. We do not currently have the drop tables because we don't know who they're supposed to be attributed to. Let me go get... Might as well open up silent chests as well. You haven't used Lidless Wall on Bone Spirit in a long time. Lidless Wall has been pretty trash on Bone Spirit for grip. Like, I would not use Lidless Wall on Bone Spirit. What do I need? Helmets? The normal class uniques are from Grigor. Everything else is Infernal Hordes. There you go. Doesn't do much for me, but there it is. A sword. Lich's Bane. Corpse Tendies. I don't think I had much care for that. Bone Spirit build will make high pits. Will it make high pits? Probably not. Not in comparison to other builds. Like, when we're talking about... Well, it depends on what you think high pits mean. Can you define your question in more detail or be more specific in your question? The reason why I ask for that is because right now Bone Spirit can do pit 120. This amulet is insane. I think it will gain an amount of pit levels I think it will gain an amount of pit levels if nothing else changes. Like, if the only things that change is what pit levels are like currently available, and like that difficulty doesn't change or anything like that, which is an impossible thing for me to say, that it will gain an amount of pit levels. I just think that every Necromancer build will gain an amount of pit levels, with Blight losing a significant amount of its strength, all damage over time builds losing a significant amount of their strength. But we should also expect all these things to be rebalanced from feedback from the PTR. The only thing that I feel fairly certain about is the fact that builds that are not currently hyper overperforming and aren't getting anything that hyper overperforms, most notably Bone Spirit, is probably going to go unchanged, and it has gained a pretty significant amount of strength. So short of content changing, I believe that you will see an increase in the output of that build. The issue, though, is that the Helm of Lucian exists, and this thing can't see live in its current iteration. And I think that a lot of people might walk away from the PTR with misinterpreted build strength based off of how it's currently performing. Like, I think they currently have kind of a soft spot for Bone Spirit, because while minion builds have always been like quote-unquote trash, there was never a season where Bone Spirit was the best build, but there was a season where Minions was the best build. People just don't like to remember it. So, I think they are perfectly fine. Like, they did not expect Bone Spirit to be the best build currently, and that's very clear from the toys and the buffs that it received. So I think to them, the pop-out build for this season is supposed to be Bone Spirit. Wasn't Season 3 the best for Bone Spear? Season 3, Bone Spear was... I don't believe that Bone Spear was the best build in Season 3. What was the best build in Season 3? Well, Bone Spear was pretty good. Bone Spear was the best build in Season 0. What was Season 2? Vampire Powers? Bone Spear was like tied for best build in Season 1. But that was all Barber Heart shenanigans. What was Season 2? Was Season 2 Dots? Season 2 was very strong for Dots, yes. I think Blight really started to shine. Sever was... Wait, no, Sever was very good in Season 3. I don't think it was the best, though. Bone Spear could start one-shotting bosses in Season 3. I mean, it could always kind of one-shot bosses a little bit, but not to the extent that it could like in Season 3, because it just gained so many multipliers. And so much silly shit, because you could finally do Blood Boil. So you could walk up and just like blow up a dude. Sometimes you could just pop up and show people. Season 2 was not blood builds, no, not by a far margin. Unless you want to talk about Season 3 in the Gauntlet, where Blood Surge is the best build. That's very specifically in the Gauntlet. Overpower Blood Wave was functional, probably like low C tier. But considering it was non-functional before, that is a huge increase. Improving the Shade Mist build based on what you said, and the decay aspect feels great, still running Unyielding. Disarming the Dead in Pit, thanks for the review. Yeah, no problem. I continue to not know necessarily what that does for the build, but I'm glad it's working for you. Like, your minions should not die, basically. For a Sever Jumpy Jump. Like, as a build to do damage? Absolutely not. No, it is. It basically cuts your Sever damage in half. But I think that Sever in general, the new... I basically think that, like, every single Necromancer build that does crit can now just put on Locrins and now do competent damage. Which sucks. I don't know why Wither was Wither can be capped. I don't know why it wasn't buffed. Like, I think Wither should be capped at like 2,000 intelligence and be buffed to make up the difference. Because at like 1,000 intelligence, you start to receive like pretty significant, like, diminished return on investment for continuing to put points into it over other damage sources or other stats. I don't know, man. It bare minimum needs to be more than a 25% chance of benefiting from it. 25% of the chance means that you expect, on average, it to not proc. You would expect it to not proc the vast majority of the time. So then you would ask the question, why would I ever do that? And it's not really like interesting to build into it up to the 1200. You just kind of naturally do that. So it's like not interesting to build into it anymore. You kind of just get it and it's not great. It's like, how is this the most fun outcome? Yeah, it procs half as often. Like, and it already only procced half the time. We have builds that get to overpower 100% of the time, builds that get to crit 100% of the time, builds that get to do vulnerable damage 100% of the time. But damage over time, go fuck yourselves. Not only can you not crit and not overpower, but you also don't get to get this one cool thing. Go fucking take it up with God. It's wild. Do I agree with that rating? Yep. I kind of like me and Chronix kind of make that rating, so it would be weird if I disagreed with it. What do we consider to be speed farming? Well, luckily we have an entire description on the tier lists that you can read that lets you know how we define the tier lists. And if you don't read them, I would highly recommend checking them out, because we add the context to the tier list so that you can consume it. Speed farming is easy content for the build strength. So doing a tier 100 tends to be a speed farm setup. I wish Bone Spear will be more like D2 and have crazy distance. I mean, relatively speaking, since quite literally the field of view is 4 times as large as original Diablo 2, the distance on Bone Spear is like realistically further than it was in Diablo 2. Like in real game sense, as opposed to like physically how far the projectile would travel in the game world. I can understand capping Wither. I can't understand not then compensating it. It could be longer. Sure. What would that do? Because monsters aren't like activated or loaded. Like beyond a certain point. So it wouldn't actually accomplish anything. What would you hope the further distance would accomplish? The returning projectiles don't fit to Bone Spear. Huh. Seems like an interesting line in the sand to draw. What about it is not Bone Spear as opposed to not just Diablo 2's Bone Spear? So I don't think that the conversation of this isn't enough like Diablo 2 is necessarily like a particularly valuable conversation. But what about it shooting back exploding shards is like fantasy-wise wrong? When you're too good at math for nostalgia. I combat like D2 nostalgia quite a bit. Mostly because like before Diablo 4, I was just playing Diablo 2. And Diablo 2 has so many great things about it that exist inside of the capsule that is Diablo 2 and are like pretty shit for modern gaming, all things considered. And like what modern gaming really should seek to hope to accomplish and what purpose it serves in the gamer's life and etc. Maybe they'll make Shadow Blight an actually good key passive. The issue with that is that Shadow Blight isn't damage over time. Like, regardless of how bad they want it to work this way, there isn't a good way currently in the game to truly marry damage over time scaling and marry critical strike chance scaling. There just isn't. There is no actual incentive to accomplish that thing, or any reason to seek to accomplish that thing other than to do worse damage. Like, you can't fit in the aspects and stats necessary to crit cap and make use of it. So then the follow-up question is, what is the purpose? And then you realize that it is just strictly worse than not doing it. Like, Sever's aspect is that it will cast a Blight Bolt that's a stronger Blight Bolt. But in a real build, you can't put 5 points into Blight and its modifier, and 5 points into Sever and its modifier, so the Blight can't do damage. Or you could, but then you won't have enough points to pick up the rest of the things that you need. So then, are you supposed to cast them both in concert? So rather than using something like Corpse Explosion, one of the only multipliers available for Darkness builds, you would cast like the Blight to be your damage over time thing, but then you can't consume corpses. So you lose out on Flesh Eater, you lose out on Fueled by Death, you lose out on Grim Harvest. There's no real reason to create the corpses in the first place. So you'd be less incentivized to use something like Gravekeeper, which is one of the strongest multis that we have available to us. It's just like, it so doesn't work with itself. Like, do I want Sever to do damage? Well, then I have to cast Sever. But if I want the Blight to do the damage, I have to cast Blight. Blight doesn't then retroactively, like, really synergize with Sever in any meaningful way. So which one do I cast at any given time? Blight has a very minor amount of impact damage, but you'll notice that even though they reduced the damage sources of Darkness skills, they did not increase the instantaneous damage of Blight. So Blight's instantaneous damage got nerfed into the ground from the blighted aspect and gained nothing, but only the dot was buffed. And the dot was buffed to offset Wither, but that doesn't help the instantaneous damage. So that like very small foothold that the overlap could benefit from is also gone. So again, the question becomes like, what are you supposed to do? The answer is nothing. Anything? I don't know. Also, is there not a helmet chest up here? I guess not. So I just need to go open up chests to get compasses and call it a day. Yeah. This weird hope that these two systems interact has never really like added up in a meaningful way. That wasn't it either. This also wasn't it, right? I don't think so. You can scratch the walls if you have longer distances. Contextless? I think that's a true statement. In your opinion, what is the best build for Necro in this season? In season 5 and in season 4, unless something changes, it's Bone Spirit. Minions affected by lucky hit chance? They aren't. They cannot trigger lucky hit chance. They have a couple bugged interactions in the game, but they themselves cannot trigger lucky hit chance. If you ever hear somebody talking about the minions triggering lucky hit chance, what they more so are talking about is bugged interactions that they have with specific skills or effects. Like right now, the new aspect that gives your minions shadow damage over time aura, that has 100% lucky hit chance coefficient for on gear lucky hit chance procs like X-Falls and Doombringer and Elemental Surge and things like that. But they themselves cannot normally trigger those effects. Will I be testing Thorn's minion? Sure. We could do that today. They can make basics do more. All they've attempted to do is make basic skills do more. They put in an entire sword that drastically increases your basic skill damage. The vast majority of classes have multiple basic skill damage builds. The Necromancer is one that's still sorely missing out on like a good option. We're gonna try out Reap though. I think it's gonna be bad, but like we're gonna try it. Why not? Test D's nuts. Ha! Got him. I thought you need to get me to say something so that you can say D's nuts. I thought that's where it ultimately evolved to. Short gun. Yeah, the major issue with the major issue with Bone Splinters is that they don't do area of effect damage. Like they don't do AoE damage. That's the only way that you can make a basic skill good is if it does AoE damage, and they just don't. They immediately get eaten by the first target, so you dump a bunch of damage into one person, and then you dump a bunch of damage into that same one person, and then they're dead, and then you dump a bunch of damage into the next person. The only time that our basic skills were good was when we had the Barber Heart. Because then you could dump a bunch of damage in one person who would die and explode. Yeah, I was pretty sad with Bone Prison build. Where like, yes, the Bone Prison dealt damage, but to empower it so I could reset it quickly, I had to cast Bone Spirit to eat all my essence, and that would actually just... that would just do more damage. And I was like, cool. Okay. How's Bone Spirit? Bone Spirit's doing pretty well. I think this new amulet is like insane for every Necro build, so I think a lot of builds are gonna like baseline feel good, but they all have to run this amulet, and that sucks. Oh man. This amulet has to be like half as strong as it currently is. Where do you pick up the amulet? I got mine at the end of the quest. I also think that with the change to unique items, like I was looking at a build from Northwar, he had every single sorceress item was a unique except for his pants and his offhand, and that's only because there are no unique offhands, which really confuses me. Like, why have we continued to get unique weapons, but not unique offhands or a focus yet. It says to me, well, no, because they just like rebranded Foci to have a lucky hit chance. It really feels like maybe they were considering like repurposing them in some way. Lidless Wall will still be needed for Season 5 Bone Spear. Lidless Wall isn't currently needed. I wouldn't recommend Lidless Wall on Bone Spear. So I would say the answer is no, but it's because I don't think that you should be using it right now as a baseline. You always get the same amulet for completing it? From the Iron Wolves, yes, you do. I have Starless Skies. I don't think I would use Grandfather. Grandfather is just a 2x multi. Oh, well, it's... I need to go prove that something is even interestingly happening with Deathless Visage. Like, it seems to be very slightly overperforming what I think it should, but at least the calculation doesn't seem wrong. %200% buff, not enough. Nope. 2 1.5 buffs is stronger than 1 200% buff. Any good Necro builds in Season 5? Yeah, all of them. Except for Blight. Except for damage over time. Well, Blood builds are also going to be a pretty keck W, but... I think every build once you put on Lucian's helmet is going to feel real good. What's going on, brother? How's stream today? We just started, feeling pretty good. Also, I think my Bone Spirit video just dropped. Long stream. Am I well rested? I'm not. In fact, I woke up having a panic attack. New necklace is Lokrins. Use a compass? I can. Give me a second. On the PTR server? No, those are all seasonal items, Daniel. That's all seasonal for. Why again is a panic attack something to laugh about? Are you getting offended on my behalf? Are you getting offended for me on my behalf about how I'm downplaying my panic attack? I guess this could get me more to Crux. Or am I misconstruing the tone of that question? Panic attacks suck out loud. Just wondering if people might take a wrong attempt on that. I'm not sure what that means. But it's me laughing at the fact that my morning started with a panic attack, because that's funny. Because it sucks. I tend to think I can laugh at my own panic attacks. I just have... No, I'm not Mr. Disrespect. Thank you, though. Better for you than coffee? Well, I can't drink coffee. This is one of the other issues I kind of run into, because it's bad for my tum-tum. So most things are better than coffee. But like, so I wake up and I'm freaking out and I can't figure out why. So I start doing like deep breathing and trying to focus on other things. And that's not really helping. So I just started listening to voice messages in my group chat from other people and getting ready for work. That like generally helped, and I think it started wearing off at like, I don't know, about 4 hours ago, 3-4 hours ago. Small screen gallery from a run I just did in Discord with OP numbers. Yeah, let's take a look. I've luckily only experienced panic attacks a couple times in my life. Ooh. Not bad. Having dogs helps. I would love to have a dog. Sadly, we can't have dogs. Bones, the Necromancer is squishy, particularly squishy. Try Bone Splinters with new glove that buff basic skills. I just like kind of not great because Pain Gorgers doesn't carry overpower or crits. So building into crit doesn't do anything to increase your AoE damage, so your damage is all pitiful since all your multipliers are built off of critting. I honestly think that Pain Gorgers, unless they very specifically can carry some type of weird damage applicator build can do, is like complete trash on the Necromancer. Like unironically unusable. You had nightmare about Necro not doing quadzillion damage? No, don't worry, just let me get Lucians and I'll start doing some quadzillion damage for you. Oh, you wanted me to run a thing. Let me go do the Blood Maiden, because I'm already running here, and then I'll go do a sigil. Maybe we'll bump up to like tier 5. So I think I have quite a few now. Yeah, I have quite a few now. Do these say anything different on them on tier 3? You look handsome today? Hair on fleek? Thank you. I am like a dirty, oily Italian boy today. So I'm glad you think I look good. I don't look good in comparison to what I can look like, but I'm glad that you think that I do. Man, imagine if Blood Surge could benefit from Blood Orbs in a meaningful way. That'd be pretty cool, man. Don't be hard on myself? I appreciate that. I'll be hard on myself when I like to, though. Thank you. I think there's a difference between being hard on yourself and being realistic about you and where you're at. And I think it's healthy to do that. What's up, Zeed? The starter question confuses me. They have modified the drop rate of compasses so that they are dropping as the devs intended for them to. If that is the question. I don't want to do this. Yeah, let's go back and do a thing. Secret. Are you meant to be able to town portal while in Blood Mist? Could you always do that? I instinctively did it, so I fully expected it to work. Can you always do that? Quadrillion of damage, not supposed even to have a name. You don't see it in real life? Well, you don't see a billion in real life. Unless you're looking at like sand or the stars. But we have astronomically large numbers for astronomic studies, like astronomy and like astrophysics. Those numbers exist. They don't only exist in video games. I don't know if this is like a weird copy pasta, but like numbers existed with names before Diablo 4 because we used them for stuff. What is a compass? A compass is the way that you get into the new content. Do these say anything different? Are the compasses meant to have different things? Cooldown starting after the skill is ended. How is that interaction with the aspect of exploding mist? It works correctly. Where at the end, your cooldown is lower based off of how many corpses you consumed. I was just looking at the bubble tech, thinking why I never did it. Yeah, I was positive it would work. I just don't know why, because I don't think that should work that way. But you can salvage T3 compasses to get scrolls? Yep. How do you feel about the other characters in Diablo 4? How do I feel about them? I think that the Barbarian is negatively impacting our ability to enjoy this game, because the developers refused to tear off the bandage, but that's about it. Stygian Stone will drop more next season. Nope, they buffed Stygian Stones this season. There's no talk about them further changing it at this point. But they've already buffed it, like Stygian Stone drop is significantly larger than it was previously. You actually see them now. What? What? Why would that ever happen? It's a matter of speech. I'm just saying why. It's a matter of speech to say that this number doesn't exist in the world. It only exists, I don't think that's a matter of speech, boss. I think it's like hyperbolic lying for the purposes of like, for it strengthening a position. Or it's like misrepresentative of the truth for the purposes of hyperbolically and strengthening a position. You know that like doing that much damage it's a bug. Like, they don't expect builds to do this much damage. It's that items are functioning incorrectly. The developers have no intention for you to do quadrillions of damage, because that one-shots every single monster in the game. And they intend for you to fight the monsters. You can see this in how they have continuously attempted to add content that is so hard that we can't finish it, and then people cry about not being able to finish it. And then they make it easier, because the majority asks for it. Do I have that Lucian helm? I don't. The Necromancer doesn't have a lot of survival skill. Well, it has Blood Mist. And you can get up to a ridiculous, you can get up to a very reasonable and scaled amount of maximum life. And we have like pretty decent access to damage reduction. Not as much as other classes, but like a pretty decent amount. I think the thing about the Necromancer that like is why you experience it in the way that you do, because I think when all's said and done, the Necromancer is actually like a very balanced and average expectation output class. And it's just not particularly flashy in any way. And then when they nerf things that the Necromancer does, it's always very confusing to me because of how not overperforming it is. What's your opinion on Bonespear Necro for Season 5? I'm currently playing it. It's been about an hour and a half. So I don't have a fully formed opinion. It feels pretty decent. Bugs. I guess I'll put this as a bug. Activating a scroll on controller sends the user to the gear inventory screen rather than leaving you on the consumables screen. And you need to re-navigate to the aforementioned screen. Feels real bad. Want to get a clip of this real quick? Use. There we go. Bam. I think there's real things in the game to get like justifiably like riled up about. But like when things are clearly bugs or outliers, you just like, you let them know. And if they stay in the game after that point, then get riled up about it. But they very much do not intend for us to be doing this much damage. Want to get a clip of this real quick? Use. There we go. Bam. Bonespear without overpower with the new neck. It's worse, but you can do it. I wouldn't do it, but you can do it. You have an all-time favorite Necro build in Diablo 4? Not really. Least favorite? Probably minions. Have I been able to test a new basic skill sword? I haven't. Oh, Am I gonna have to try here? Oh, you can't be CC'd? Holy! Well, this build isn't meant for this. Interessante. Oof. Nice. K Filmy, thank you very much for the 10 gift subs out to everybody.
You subscribe to a bad content.
Thank you so much. That is huge. I appreciate you.
You're a real
You just got a gift sub. Let's get some love. Thank you, thank you. And Hunter, thank you very much for the $5 super chat on YouTube. Thoughts on new Lorcan's Talisman for Bone Spear? I think it's best in slot.
You're a real one.
Thank you very much, K-Phil. Appreciate you, Boo Boo. Thank you so much. That was cool. I wasn't expected to get punted that hard, but I'm excited that it can. Oh, another bad thing. Oh. Additionally, when sorted, scrolls move to the bottom of the item list, while compasses are second in line.
So,
going from a scroll to a compass.
You subscribe to a bad content creator.
Is
You're a real one.
tens of inputs on controller. Paste format. So, want to get a, so this is sorted. Use Abyssal Scroll, go back, then go over. Use it here. Okay, I want to use another one. Go back, come over here. No bueno. Just looked up a one-handed sword that makes a base skill cost 25 resource, 300 damage. Not sure what you can add that to. I will leave it to you all crazy crafters to figure it out. I think on Necro, the only thing you can realistically leave it to is like Reap. We'll try it out. Like, if and when I drop one, we'll try it out. Did I knock that Bone Mages? Yeah, so your Bone Mages casting Bone Spear is actually just the Necromancer casting Bone Spear. It is, like, mechanically, it is just your Necromancer casting Bone Spear. The issue with Bone Splinters is that Bone Splinters doesn't do damage in an AoE. Does damage to single target. Reap at least hits AoE. But with the gloves don't transfer crit damage, and all of your multipliers for bone skills are crit damage focused. I feel like we did just have this conversation. I feel like I got stuck in a time loop for a second. Will Bone Machine Spirit Gum? So right now in Season 4, it seemingly has a bug where it scales with maximum life. So it's doing significantly more damage than it was previously, but it shouldn't be doing that much damage. And I think right now in the PTR, people were testing and say it no longer does. So I think that realistically, it's like, can you do it? Sure. Yeah, you're always going to be able to do it. It's whether or not you should do it. It's kind of like a different conversation entirely. I don't think they buff Spirit like it is on PTR. Like the base skill, they added one aspect and they added the new boots. Even if they don't add those two things, it's currently the strongest build by a far margin. Sure. Is it worth playing Bone Mages, or is it a no-no? Is it worth? I'm not sure what worth means in this context. You can do it. You can build it competently. I think it's not worth it, but you can do it. It's like a lot of investment for your Bone Mages to sometimes just cast your Bone Spear. Whereas instead you can gain an additional 20% damage for your Bone Spear, as well as damage reduction and making your other multipliers stronger as well. So to me, I don't think that's particularly good, but you can do it. Nope. Nope. So what basically happens is that you apply Pain Gorgers, then whenever you deal damage to a target with Pain Gorgers on it, it will roll basic skill damage, taking into account the modifiers of your basic skill damage and the multiplier of Pain Gorgers, but they cannot crit and they cannot overpower. It doesn't actually echo your damage, even though that's what it says. It applies the damage of the skill as if you hit those targets with it, but can't crit and can't overpower. So it's just bad. You need your damage application to be able to carry some type of secondary effect, like a poison, or for the barbarians, I think it's bleed is what they abuse with it. Or your basic skills just need to be able to do damage. So yeah. You ask them to be able to hit tab or something and get the highlight of all three choices at once instead of having to run between the three. How would they do that for controller, Seeb? When you think about the functionality of the game, we have to remember that it also has to work on console. I also don't really like being asked, like, hey, can you go report this very specific thing that I think? I don't really operate in that way. You can try to sell me on a concept, but I don't like being asked to go be an errand boy. I'm not offended, I'm just letting you know. That makes me uncomfortable. I think I want Aether events. I think devs need to learn from older games, and are they learning enough? Do I think they need to learn from older games? They do. They learn from older games, they learn from current games, they learn from not video games, they learn from making sandwiches in the morning, they learn from working side hustles. I don't think that older video games had some type of secret that we've lost, if that's what the question means. I think the vast majority of old games are bad in comparison to new games. Just like if you were to take the law of average, like if you were to take the average of a game experience that you can have nowadays versus back then, I think that new games blow old games out of the water 9 times out of 10. I do vibe with you because my name is also Marco, but... And do I think that the developers intentionally put out things they know will piss us off so that later they can make us happy? So Occam's Razor says what they could do is they could instead just make us happy and they would cut out that middleman, which would save them money and time. I think most people will be afraid to realize that at the end of the day, there aren't like evil masterminds behind the scenes secretly, like secret genius level psychopaths who fully understand human psychology, who's like who are entirely hellbent on the concept of fully manipulating like social narrative and Schadenfreude. When in reality, it's just like people make decisions and are typically trying their best and sometimes they fail. And most people who are evil are actually just like selfish or afraid of being hurt themselves. That is like, I'm now just jumping off. I'm not holding you like responsible for this. The narrative in comments and on Reddit, which is like, no, you guys don't understand. They know that by nerfing this thing, it'll piss off a lot of people, and then they'll get to say we listened to you and we fixed it. Fun fact, the moment that anybody starts getting real traction online that something isn't good, the price of stocks plummet. And regardless of whether or not they could like pseudo manipulate the narrative to like have these buoy effects, you don't get to choose to intentionally lower the stock value of your company. The rich people get real mad when you do that. Rich people get real mad when you cost them money. So this, like, they intentionally do bad things and then get to pat themselves on the back when they quote unquote fixed it, is the stupidest shit I've ever fucking heard. It's so like eighth grade. I just realized that sometimes people intentionally lie levels of like insight that blow my mind. It's the wildest shit I read on the internet. Decompose can deal AoE damage. It can, but sadly you can't speed it up because it's a channeled skill. Taught you about Chick-fil-A. Yeah, that is a person who thinks that they're doing good in the world. It turns out they're doing evil. People can also be wrong about what they think good is. That's not some like evil mastermind pulling the strings to like do these things that like manipulate the public opinion of very specifically how one fucking buff or nerf in a video game gets received. You know what I mean? Like, nah, they just have heuristics and they go, we think these things could be different, and then they click it. And then some people go, we're mad about that, and they go, ah, maybe we should listen to feedback. And then they do. And then they go, oh, okay, we either agree or we disagree. Here's the other part too. The people who create this art that we get to continue to enjoy can disagree with what we think about the video game. I have shared a lot of strong opinions where they're like, hey, thanks for sharing your opinion. We don't have to agree with that. And that's like reasonable. I'm not the one making it. You know what I mean? Like, We want the game to be like this. We want the art that we made to be like this, and we want to have the repercussions of that. That's completely valid. That's the thing that I think that like we miss. Do they want to keep us happy the majority of the time? Absolutely. No question. They can also like disagree. And that doesn't make them evil or bad or like attempting to manipulate you, etc., etc. This is hard. I have to like try. Holy. Oh. What was that quote? Something along the lines of do not attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. And then it goes even further. Like that quote should go even further because it's really important. Like we make of things that we don't like villains because it makes sense that the villain would want to do the thing to us that negatively impacts us. But that quote should go even further. And what it should also say is, and do not contribute to incompetence what you do not understand the reason for. What happens with Decompose? Decompose, you can't speed up the attack speed of Decompose because it's a channeled skill. So it will always only do 2 instances of damage per second per target. And you can't make the explosions happen faster. So Decompose is incredibly limited in its application of damage. And the vast majority of things which scale your damage, with attack speed being like foremost amongst them, for auto, for generator builds, is typically wrapped up in attack speed. Calling people malicious is better than calling people incompetent. I understand that. I think. Well, all right, cool. So this was very, very cool. I'm glad that this is actually hard, at least for my build. I think one of the things that can help a lot of people in circumstances to be able to navigate them better is first assume you are wrong. Like, assume you're wrong about whatever it is that is confusing you. This is something that I'm gonna give you all. Do you guys want to know my secret tip? My super secret tip for the success that I've gone to enjoy, not just in streaming, but in starting at a company as a tier 1 operations analyst, which basically was just a nothing in this startup, to working directly with the C-suite and overseeing a multi-billion-dollar company's entire like Medicaid services provider within a year. Do you want to know this secret tip to being like wildly successful in everything that you do? I'm not shitting on you, or I'm not shitting, like this is not a joke. I think if you do not approach things in this way, you will gain a lot by attempting to implement and weaponize this. No, I fully understand, Ian. So, when you look at something, and that thing confuses you, you think that that thing is wrong. You assume that you know that the thing is wrong, the very first step that you should take is to assume that you are in fact wrong about it. And then spend a considerable amount of time arguing against your own viewpoint in an attempt to uncover any possible realities within which you could reframe your understanding of this thing or evolve your understanding of this thing to where it will make sense. And if you cannot, if at the end of that introspection, you are still certain that the thing is wrong, the work that you've done is going to make how you're able to handle that situation so valuable. Because here's what happens, right? Here's what happens. We're going to use this as the exact example, actually. When I first look at this amulet must be wrong. Why must the amulet be wrong? Because there is no world within which a unique item's special ability would be gives you crit chance with a caveat and gives you additive crit damage. There is no aspect in the game that says gain some additive crit damage. Right? That would be insane. Why would it be that crazy? You could argue, well, it gives you a lot of critical strike chance, which is just a regular stat in the game, right? Aspects typically either change the functionality of something, multiply the effectiveness of it, or add a flat, scalable damage value to it. So effectively, this unique item would just say 6 stats. It would say all stats, maximum resource, attack speed, additive critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and additive critical strike damage. That can't be right. Well, what if I'm wrong? Right? What if I'm wrong about this thing? How can I reframe this thing in a way where it would make sense? And I sat and I looked at it for a very long time. And there was no way for me to accomplish that. I could not come to an understanding where a unique item would just say 6 additive stats. So the next step that I take, rather than call the developers incompetent, say this thing is stupid, start flaming about it, start blaming the game for my lack of happiness, is I will go test my assumption that I think this is wrong, but at the very least I can test it. So I go and I test the amulet, right? I go and I test the amulet, and it turns out that it is not additive damage. So I was correct in my initial assumption, but not for the right reason. I was correct that they would never release an item like this. But I was wrong because it turns out that there is currently something either incorrectly displayed here or it's functionally working incorrectly. So after testing this thing, rather than like going in like just throwing it at the feet of another person or demanding that somebody else like come up with the answer to my thing, you can think about this as you work with like your coworkers, like, oh, I requested a data pull and it's missing fields. What the hell? These guys didn't pull the fields that I want. Well, what if it turns out those fields didn't exist inside of the database that you thought that they did? What if it turned out that those fields are corrupt in some way, right? There's a lot of reasons why this could happen, as opposed to just like incompetence or laziness or maliciousness on the part of your coworker. Shoutouts to people who didn't have access to the database who needed data pulls done. They wouldn't give me access to the SQL database, but I needed those reports. So I then go and I test this thing. And the outcome is that it's currently working as a multiplier. So if we reframe what I now know about this thing, the item makes a lot of sense. But I believe that it has a misrepresented plus symbol here, which is something that we saw all the time. Serration used to have a plus symbol. Unyielding Commander currently has a plus symbol. It turns out that somebody put a plus symbol there as opposed to an X. Okay, now when I report this item, I have done the legwork. I've put in what my expectations are. I have shown the things that I've done to be able to test these expectations and what outcomes I've gotten to. And I'm then able to frame my feedback within this like significantly more valuable space, this collection of data. So when I give it to somebody, they go, this person has put in the time and effort to know as far as they can what reality is. So I know that my time is being respected. I know that what I've done is being seen, and I know how to interact with it because I don't have to like work through translating what they're reporting it as with incomplete data, etc. And I found that in doing this, all of my interactions with teams that were typically like beleaguered, you know, your development team for like a software company, your dudes who are just in there 12 hours a day because they keep running up against issues after QA comes back with something or it hits the live server, and that leads to issues too. Like those people, their time is incredibly valuable. And showing them that you value their time and that you're willing to put in the effort yourself before just throwing it at their feet will give them the confidence in who you are and how you stand on business and what you're willing to do to save their time to try to answer the question first will go a long way to make it so that the next time you come to them with a problem, whereas somebody else, they might just go, oh, this person doesn't get it, they don't understand what's happening. They will believe you. They will be willing to sit down and hear what your issues are. They will take the time to understand what you've done. And I found that led to success in every field I've ever worked in. I've worked in pharmacy, I've worked in specialty pharmacy, I've worked in pharmacy benefits management, worked in a lot of pharmaceutical things. But even just in like doing research, the very small amount that I did, even doing things like I did landscaping. You know, I didn't go up to the mason, the dude who was our mason on the site because he was the only one who actually knew stuff, with like questions on how to make the cement less runny. I tried my best to accomplish it. I showed him that like I followed the instructions, so he knows that like if we're running into an issue, it's either like we got like a different brand or something or what. Like it's a bad example, but like in everything that I've ever done, this has always led to the best case scenario and has always enamored people to me, has always made them like more willing to work with me, has always led to more efficient outcomes. People being willing to like sit down and hear your legitimate frustrations when you know, normally people are just kind of screaming at them and you go, hey, I'm also frustrated, but here's the work I've put in. And this very long rant is kind of to like wrap back up into how we kind of interface with the developers here, which is like, imagine you get screamed at by all corners of the internet every single day for your entire life since you started developing this game. And imagine some of those people who are sharing their frustrations with you have put in the time and effort to the best of their ability, understand what the purpose of a thing is, to then create their feedback. Which one of those two like sets of voices do you think gets elevated more often? That's kind of like, that's my secret to success. Put in all the work and assume that you're wrong, and people will learn to respect how much effort you've put into a thing and to listen to you when you have concerns. Simply being a grown-ass person? I guess so, yeah. I don't think that this is necessarily a strategy that a lot of people need to learn because it's not the fastest route to success, but it's something that like has always led to success for me. This amulet gives you up to 50% critical strike chance if you have 100 base essence, and then any essence you have over it will give you a critical strike damage multiplier. What up, Shadow? Also, thank you for listening to my rant. That was a long one. I think it's important. Also, shoutouts to whoever used my Gamer Advantage code. By the way, do you like the glasses that I'm wearing? I haven't talked about this in a while. Did you know that these are from Gamer Advantage? And that you get 10% off at checkout if you use my code MACRO? They're basically the best blue light blocking glasses I've ever put on my face ever. Super light, not weirdly yellow tinted. They look sexy as fuck. Drink some water? I could drink some water. Thanks for the follow.
So,
Wolf, thank you very much for the prime. How is Bone Spear
Subscribe to
Season
the Bad
5?
Content
It's feeling
Creator.
pretty decent. I think its damage is a little lackluster, but I
real
also
one.
haven't like fully built into the Deathless Visage, like only crit damage, because apparently that makes your damage better thing. I have to go like build into it and test it. We should probably sit down and test that today. Something that also works for me when I can get my head out of my own ass. It's also hard. The other thing too about it is like if you work with people that you know also do that, it's very easy to like know when they are approaching your situation from a place of respect, and you can assume that they've done a lot of this, so you don't have to waste as much time. That kind of deal. As Bone Spear feels good. Which non-minion build will be the best? Bone Spirit. According to what I have currently seen in this PTR, and assuming nothing else changes. Can you explain why Bone Spirit doesn't run mages with warriors, since using the skill anyways, and I believe get more per mage off Requiem over Sacrifice? Thank you for the $5, Hunter. You do not need to donate for me to answer the question. The answer is you do not get more. So what I would do is I would petition, because I think this would be a good exercise for you. How much does the essence that you get increase your damage multiplier on a fully built out Necro? Knowing that reaching 300 essence is very easy to do now. No, thank you, Uncle Jen. If we hit like day 4 and I still haven't found this thing, I don't mind. Can we talk about Succubi's damage? And like how antithetical it is to how much damage it does versus what the bolt looks like? Like, I really dislike how I can just stand next to and take the melee attacks from most things. But everything that does one-shot damage tends to have a a wind-up to it that's like over-exaggerated, and succubi are just kind of like over there and they just shoot a single missile at you and it kills you. It just doesn't match at all what the game has taught you are the indicators for knowing whether or not you're about to get one shot. And I don't think that being subversive is the way to go in a game that has this much like vomit on the screen already. I really dislike it. Come back and listen to the rant again. Oof. Listen to the rant 2 times over. You'll hear how often I just like am making up words on the spot. I don't really know the meanings of words. I just know the flavors of them. They did not fix Shielding Storm yet, no. Better than Shadow Minion? Bone Spirit is currently better than Minions, and it got stronger and Minions got weaker. In Season 4? Yep, Bone Spirit's the strongest Necro build right now. Pure Blight build, it does 30% of its base damage. It's still like 500 million DPS, but it's not, you know, push pit tier 140. What do I think of any dot build? That's the question I was just answering. That is the conversation we were just answering. Any interesting undocumented changes? Oh, a metric ton, yeah. I would say the majority of things that I've tested are like all undocumented. Considering the majority of like unique items are undocumented, but it's not really what undocumented means in that context, I guess. One of the more interesting things is that the aspect that gives your minions a shadow damage aura applies 100% lucky hit chance for the purposes of proccing on gear lucky hit chance, but no skill lucky hit chance. It shouldn't proc either, but it means that they've actually like learned from prior additions of new damage type effects in the game, but seemingly missed the fact that it also works with on gear procs. What does that mean? What does what part of what I just said? What is the thing that is confusing? Aspect that gives Shadow Minions lucky hit gear proc every time. Yep. Yep. That is the statement. Although it's not that they proc all the time, it's that it has 100% lucky hit chance coefficient. So the calculation for lucky hit chance is lucky hit chance coefficient multiplied by 1 plus your lucky hit chance bonus, multiplied by the chance to proc effect. So if you have 100% lucky hit chance coefficient and a 25% chance to proc an effect, you expect it to proc 25% of the time. For you or your minions. The damage applied by the aura on your minions from the aspect carries a 100% lucky hit chance coefficient. Would you use Shaco as a helmet? You would not. You can, it's just not particularly, or it's not the strongest option. You would use Deathless Visage, but that's possibly due to a bug with how it scales its critical strike damage bonus, which I have to go test. You feel very privileged to have me as a Necro player. Well, I'm glad that I can help with you enjoying the video game. At the end of the day, that's basically my job. And the thing that unironically keeps me interested in doing this is I very much like teaching. Not enough to be a teacher, because that's one of the worst jobs that we all pretend is just okay. Most people nowadays are aware of how bad being a teacher is in the United States, but it's pretty fucking rough out there, boss. But I love teaching, and when somebody is like, oh hey, I learned a thing from you and I get to enjoy XYZ more because of that, is the thing that keeps me going. It is the thing that when people are telling me I should go die in a car fire because they disagree with my opinion about a video game, and ironically, that's the thing where I'm like, hey man, also remember that there are a bunch of people out there who are like, hey, I wasn't enjoying the video game, or I use this to de-stress, and you make that easier. And it's hell yeah, man. Not a lot of people get the privilege of being able to hear appreciation of their efforts, and it's something that I get to enjoy a lot. It's a very cool privilege. What would be the best basic attack skill to test for Shard? I think it will be Reap. You can't find a build with Visage on max roll? I don't believe that I currently agree with the Bone Spear build that's on max roll. One of the other things with max roll though is that we typically don't like to recommend bugged interaction things, because if it gets fixed, we will screw people's gear, which makes it very hard. Invigorate you. What does invigorate mean? View prior choices. I didn't even know I could do this. That's cool. I have it on YouTube. I have a build planner. Oh, do I even recommend it on the build planner right now? I do not currently have a build guide up for Bone Spear. I actually haven't played Bone Spear in Season 4. Bone Spear was in a weird middle place where it's doing okay, but people are not as confused about how to make it good as they are with bone builds. But it's also not an overperforming build. Yeah, your Bone Wall is 6 minions. Bone Prison counts as minions. It's going to be on the Infinite Minion build I'm going to put together. The major issue with it is I have to test it without lucky hit chance X-Falls to see what it does for Blight, to get an idea of how much damage I should expect it to do. Because there's no way that it proccing lucky hit chance will stay in the game. I don't know how long it may take. I don't know if it'll launch into Season 5 with that interaction, but it's absolutely a bug. Minions don't have lucky hit chance, and aspects are not meant to proc lucky hit chance in that way. Get those breaks fixed? I did, yeah. If you're using X falls and use that aspect to give minion shadow damage, will it proc more often? It will, it just shouldn't.
I need more time.
They teleport? Oh, they also get broken. That's funny.
I need more time.
Oh, they do little shadow hydras. Yeah, why aren't there more hydras on screen right now? There they are. Oh, this is very cool.